A fisherman saved a swan tangled in fishing nets and received an incredible thank you in return. A fisherman noticed a swan tangled in fishing nets in the lake and rushed to help. With incredible effort, the man managed to save the unfortunate bird, which thanked him in the most unexpected way. Ethan was a seasoned fisherman who had spent years living near a vast lake, indulging in his passion for fishing whenever he could. In his 40s, he was a stocky man with a sun-weathered face, his deep-set wrinkles speaking of countless hours under the blazing sun. His thick eyebrows and prominent hooked nose lent him a stern appearance, commanding respect among the locals. Yet, those who knew Ethan well recognized the warmth and quiet melancholy in his dark eyes, as though he yearned for something irretrievably lost. Ethan cherished his solitary moments on the lakeshore, fishing rod in hand, surrounded by the tranquility of nature. The shimmering surface of the water, with its silvery reflections, always captivated him, hinting at its vastness and the secrets hidden in its mysterious depths. From a young age, Ethan had gone fishing with his father, and as he grew older, he honed his skills, becoming an expert fisherman with a deep understanding of the lake's creatures and their habits. Nearly every weekend, Ethan would grab his fishing rod and make his way to his favorite spot by the lake. With his keen eyes, he could quickly pinpoint the best fishing spot for the day. He knew all the subtle signs, the ripples on the water caused by the coastal breeze, the behavior of birds and insects, and even the faint scent of mud near the shores, all clues that guided him to a successful catch. Ethan felt a deep connection with the water element, which was in his blood. That memorable day seemed to promise an excellent fishing catch. Early in the morning, Ethan set off from the shore in a small boat, rowing to one of his favorite spots. A fresh breeze caressed his face, bringing with it the sense of still, cool water and warmed earth. High in the sky, solitary seagulls sliced through the clear morning air with their wings. Reaching his spot, Ethan happily cast his fishing line. He was glad to finally relax from the endless weekdays loaded with hard work. The sun was just starting to beat down, and the weather was just fine. Suddenly, something in the distance caught his eye. He looked closer, squinting against the sunlight. Among the reeds growing nearby, there was clearly some movement. It looked like a large creature, but Ethan couldn't make out exactly what it was because of the grass. The fisherman set aside his fishing rod and watched with interest. Finally, he realized it was a beautiful, snow-white swan, which was not often seen in this lake. However, something was clearly wrong with the graceful bird. It was furiously flapping its wings but could neither fly nor move forward at all. It was obvious the swan was in trouble. Ethan knew he was in for a soaking. Without hesitation, he jumped into the water and headed toward the distressed bird. This part of the lake was shallow, so the fisherman confidently walked along the bottom towards his target. Approaching a bit closer, Ethan saw that the swan was tangled in fishing nets left by some irresponsible fishermen. The more the beautiful bird flapped its wings, trying to free itself, the more it entangled in the nets, only worsening its already difficult situation. Ethan realized that he couldn't just free the suffering bird from its awful trap, so he had to return to the shore for a knife. The fisherman tried to be quick, as any delay could cost the swan its life, already hopelessly tangled in the sturdy fishing nets. Finally, Ethan returned to the bird, which looked very bad due to its endless, futile attempts to escape. The fisherman stroked the swan's neck, gently persuading it to calm down and not jerk its wings to avoid causing itself more pain. When the bird calmed down a little and froze in the hands of the kind man, he got to work. Ethan started carefully cutting the loops of the net, one by one, trying not to harm the already suffering bird. It was quite a hard job, and Ethan cut dozens of loops of the net to free at least one wing. The swan watched the man sadly all this time and barely moved, as if understanding that he was trying to help. The fisherman paused for a moment as his hands were very tired from the monotonous work, and his body began to chill in the cold water. Knowing that giving up was not an option, after a couple of minutes, Ethan gathered his strength and began to free the other wing of the bird in trouble. Drops of sweat trickled down his face, and large blisters had already appeared on his palms. But the man felt neither heat nor cold nor pain, only a wild desire to finish what he had started, which incredibly took over his entire being. When the last loop of the net was finally cut, Ethan carefully tossed the entangled nets aside. Fortunately, they easily slipped off the fragile body of the swan and fell into the water. The freed bird heavily collapsed into the quiet surface of the lake and simply lay still, floating on the water. Ethan collected the remains of the nets, intending to take them with him and throw them away in the town so they would not bring trouble to anyone else. Then the fisherman turned his gaze to the freed swan, which gradually began to come to its senses and still timidly flapped its wings as if checking that they were indeed finally free. Ethan gently stroked the swan's head again, which, after what had happened, was no longer afraid of humans and seemed to even place its neck under his hand. Then the fisherman headed to the shore, realizing that he had already spent a lot of time in the cold water and needed to urgently put on dry clothes and drink hot tea to avoid hypothermia. Fortunately, Ethan had a spare set of clothes in his backpack, which he immediately changed into. He then poured hot tea from the thermos into a mug and enjoyed its taste. Ethan had already forgotten about the saved bird and was planning to return to fishing when the swan unexpectedly came ashore right next to the fisherman. This made the man smile and stroke the graceful bird again. Here, Ethan could leisurely observe the beautiful swan and ensure that it had not been seriously injured in the dangerous trap of the fishing net remnants. At least there were no visible serious wounds or injuries on its body. Yet Ethan understood that the bird had followed him ashore, not just for that. Something else was still greatly troubling it. Therefore, the fisherman bent down closer to the swan to make sure it did not need any medical help. At that moment, something truly incredible happened. The swan seemed to have been waiting for this moment. It took a few confident steps forward on its paws. Then, in an incredible burst, it gently wrapped its long, curved neck around the man's neck. Ethan was very surprised, unable to even move. So the swan had come ashore not to ask for help from the man again, but specifically to thank him in such an incredible way. Amazed, Ethan froze in the embrace of the soft feathers, feeling the sweet warmth of this unexpected gesture of swan gratitude. At that moment, all the tension that had accumulated in Ethan's body during the incredible rescue operation suddenly dropped. Ethan surrendered entirely to the swan's gentle embrace, his body relaxing as an overwhelming wave of emotion washed over him. Large, salty tears rolled down his cheeks, unbidden. Never before had he experienced such profound unity and harmony with nature. In that fleeting moment, he could almost feel the rhythmic beating of the swan's heart, perfectly mirroring the tremor in his own chest. At that moment, time seemed to stand still, its importance fading away. Ethan felt the soft, velvety silk of the swan's feathers brushing gently against his neck, each feather carrying a delicate scent of the lake's freshness and purity, imbued with the warmth of sunlit rays. Then, with quiet elegance, the swan stepped back, took a few graceful strides, and glided effortlessly back into the water. A moment later, the swan gracefully glided across the glassy surface of the lake, leaving behind only a delicate ripple. Freed at last, the swan swam away, and Ethan couldn't take his eyes off the retreating, majestic creature. Even after the swan disappeared from view, he remained captivated. Ethan knew this was one of the most unforgettable and vivid moments of his life, a memory that would stay with him forever. What an incredible story! If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.